She was the queen with the towering hair, the dazzling gowns, and the reputation for saying, "Let them eat cake." But behind the extravagant fashion and opulence was a young girl, thrust into a world she never truly understood, and one that would ultimately destroy her. Born in 1755 in Austria, Marie Antoinette was the 15th child of Empress Maria Theresa. She was sweet, lively, and full of charm, but far from the academic prodigy her title might suggest. As a child, she struggled with reading and writing, and even at the age of 10, she found it difficult to write fluently in her native German. At just 14 years old, she was married off to the French Dauphin, the future King Louis XVI, a political alliance more than a love match. The French court immediately began transforming her into what they believed a proper queen should look like. Her Austrian fashion was deemed too plain, her teeth were straightened, her posture corrected, her very identity reshaped to suit the grandeur of Versailles. But life at court was no fairy tale. Versailles was a place of spectacle, rules, and relentless public scrutiny. Every moment of her day was on display. She was dressed by handmaidens in front of a crowd. Her meals were public events. She couldn't even sleep without ceremony. Worse still, her marriage was not going smoothly. It didn't help that Versailles was the least private place in all of France, especially for members of the royal family. So when the marriage between the Dauphin and Marie Antoinette remained unconsummated, it didn't stay a secret for long. An unconsummated royal marriage meant no possibility of producing heirs, something that wasn't just a private issue, but a national concern. With the stability of the French monarchy hanging in the balance, the court quickly informed the reigning king, Louis XV. Fortunately, the old king was fond of both his grandson and his young Austrian bride. He responded with patience and understanding, insisting that no one pressure the newlyweds. He expressed confidence that they would settle into married life in time. But back in Austria, Empress Maria Theresa had far less sympathy. Their mother-daughter correspondence in those early years reveals just how strained their relationship truly was. Maria Theresa, who was always well informed by her network of spies at Versailles, was quick to criticize her daughter for alienating key members of the French court, for her increasingly extravagant and luxurious lifestyle, and most of all, for failing to seduce or persuade her husband to finally consummate the marriage. She warned Marie Antoinette that she was becoming the subject of public ridicule and scandal, and she didn't hold back. She accused her daughter of being frivolous, flighty, and uninterested in intellectual self-improvement. The Empress scolded her relentlessly. Read more, be wiser, act with dignity. She warned her that she lacked the intelligence, talent, and strength of character to survive the growing criticisms that would surely come. Marie Antoinette's replies were defensive and often heartbroken. She expressed sorrow that her mother would believe the worst about her, and insisted that she truly had France and the Austrian alliance at heart. But as her mother predicted, the damage to Marie Antoinette's reputation had already begun. She soon became infamous for her lavish spending, flamboyant fashion, and extravagant parties, behaviors many historians believe were her way of compensating for a deeply unfulfilling marriage. Physically, she remained untouched. Emotionally, she was isolated. Louis remained distant and suspicious, particularly of her Austrian heritage. Then on May 10, 1774, King Louis died of smallpox at the age of 64. Though he had been a popular monarch for much of his reign, few truly mourned him in his final days, aside from his grandson, the new king. Now all eyes turned to Louis XVI and his controversial young queen. With time, she became a mother and began to find some footing. But her marriage remained awkward. Louis was quiet, private, and more interested in locks and clocks than his wife. Marie, on the other hand, was sociable, playful, and had a passion for fashion and parties. Feeling trapped in a loveless marriage and suffocated by duty, she turned to clothes, entertainment, and her close-knit circle of friends to feel alive. She spent lavishly on dresses, diamonds, and daring new hairstyles that became the talk of Europe. She even wore a hairstyle featuring a miniature battleship to celebrate a naval victory. But while the court admired her, the public saw something else: extravagance, ignorance, and greed. As France's economic crisis deepened, fingers pointed at Madame Deficit. Her spending became symbolic of everything wrong with the monarchy. And despite her generosity, Marie donated to charities, built homes for the poor, and adopted orphans. It wasn't enough to silence the growing discontent. Her reputation took another hit during the infamous diamond necklace affair. A scandalous scheme she had no part in, yet one that further tarnished her name. And then, in the shadow of famine and rising bread prices, the French Revolution began. The people were angry, desperate, starving, and they saw Marie as a villain. In a desperate attempt to escape, Marie and her family fled Paris, disguised as commoners, but their escape failed. They were recognized, captured, and brought back to the capital. From that moment, their fate was sealed. Louis XVI was executed. Marie Antoinette followed 9 months later. Charged with treason and falsely accused of abusing her own son, she was sentenced to death. On October 16, 1793, dressed in simple white, she was led to the guillotine. Even in her final moments, she showed grace, apologizing to the executioner for stepping on his foot. Marie Antoinette was just 37 years old. Today we remember her as a tragic figure, a woman who never asked for the crown she wore, yet carried it with dignity until the bitter end. Was she extravagant? Yes. But she was also intelligent, compassionate, and misunderstood. The queen who once symbolized decadence has, over time, become a symbol of tragic beauty, political scapegoating, and the dangers of public perception.